Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach. How are we, guys? It's Thursday night football. I hope you guys are enjoying it. It's half time, and I thought, I really wanted to get out and do this. Oh shit, we don't want to read about that. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to hit the gym and then get a video sorted all before sort of 7:30 for the footy. So I thought I'll just smash this one out at half time. But the teams are in. We'll have a look at that. No surprises, but there's definitely some big things to talk about. I took some notes in the live sesh the other day. Just at a few main talking points. Obviously, Heeney, Fisher, Nick Martin, Gibcus, Newcomb, those guys were discussed, and even sort of cash gen from Hogan and Mackay in a couple of weeks. So we could probably chuck Williams in there too. Yeah, good live sesh too. Thanks to everyone who jumped on. It was great. It's always a good time of year with the live sessions. Lots of interest and heaps of comments. It was pretty funny, actually. A lot of my students, the New Year 7s, found my channel on the live session on Wednesday night. And, I didn't realise till about halfway through. And I was telling a story how I absolutely cracked it in the final at tennis the other day. I, played a shock. I was so pissed off. Anyway, after the singles loss, I was that pissed off. I went behind the club rooms and just threw me drink bottle into the brick wall, full psycho mode. I mean, you would not have thought I was a well-being teacher at that moment. But yeah, I thought nothing of it. And then I get to school today, and one of the girls is like, "Why are you throwing drink bottles at the brick wall?" I was like, "Wow, shit, that must have been someone else." But yeah, no, it was a good bit of fun. But I will keep the lives going on the Wednesday night too. About 7 o'clock. On TikTok till, depending how many questions. We had a lot the other night, so I stayed till about 22, quarter to 8. But yeah, it'll be anywhere from that 7:30, 7:45 range on YouTube. But yeah, let's have a look at these teams, and there'll be much more pressing teams in the future. This was all pretty chill, really. I looked through them before, and there was nothing of real note aside from... There's a bit of talk about Luke Jackson, isn't there? A bit of talk about what's going to go on with him. Zach Reed going down. There would have been some who had Gibcus and Reed, one or both on the field, would have been a nightmare. There weren't many, but those who continued with harms would have been filthy. And then, there isn't too much. So I did want to spend the bulk of this video talking about some of these guys. And I want to talk about Isaac Heeney first. Now, I want some credit here. I have been the biggest believer in this bastard for so long. If you've been with this channel, you will attest to that. And I have not gone with him the year that he goes nuts. Now, he has done this before, but not to quite this compelling look. Was it 2022 that he started like an absolute machine? Yeah, so he started like this before. Couple of 140s in the first 2 rounds, and he only ended up averaging 101, which is still pretty damn good, but... He's been outstanding, and it's hit different. It's been that midfield role. Sydney look like they're just really unleashing him. So I think he's a must-have. And look, you got to ask yourself the question is, this is a weak forward line we've got to pick from this year. So we don't have to get too much from Heeney for him to be a top 6 forward. He could drop off a bit. He could drop off a lot and still be one of the top 6. And the fact is, he's not going to spend much of the year under 500k again. He'll be over that probably 550 mark for most of the season if he keeps this sort of stuff up. So you've got to ask yourself, if you think he's going to be top 6, which I'd argue with anyone that he's going to be now, because it's got to that point. Originally I was like, Adams and Parker, they'll come back, but he's been way too good. He's almost too impressive to even take out. So he'll stay in there. And I just think he's going to explode in price and just continue on his merry way. So I think we've got to get him in, because this will probably be the cheapest price we can get him for the whole year. So how do we do that? Options to bring in. I mean, let's start with Gibcus. One of the most popular ones. Everyone's got him. It's got to be D'Ambrosio. He looked fantastic. Scored about 120. And I don't expect that every week, clearly. He was probably a guy that I thought would play a bit more wing, but Hawthorn played just such a high possession brand of footy off that half-back line and wing. Amon, Impey, and then D'Ambrosio. There was a lot of footy flying around. Weddle as well. So he certainly cashed in. I still would see him averaging somewhere in the 80s, but he's going to make us a lot of money. So you got to bring him in. So you got to find a way to find yourself probably about 70k. And then if you're trying to bring in Heeney, well, you probably got to find even more. So we might even get a look at Dacos's halftime score here. I can't imagine it'd be much more than 50. I think he's struggling a bit. Fuck, 36. You can throw my VC out the fucking window then. Jesus Christ. Okay. Fair enough. That's all good. So for me, I'm going hand up. The Jimby experiment didn't work. I'll admit that. Jimby down to, well, originally Billings. But with the fact that Heeney became a must-have in my mind, I'm going to go Zach Fisher to Heeney, and the downgrade will be Jimby to Windsor, and then Gibcus to D'Ambrosio. So I would prefer Billings over Windsor, but Windsor was looking pretty good. I mean, he was on 75 or something before he got subbed off, so he was trending to at least 90. So I think, yeah, D'Ambrosio's your guy. If you've already got him or you've got to replace Reed and all this stuff, you're just probably going to have to find a rookie or something. If you want to go a little left field, Lockie Bramble as the Dogs defender looked pretty good, actually, and has a little bit of scoring history at the Hawks. Otherwise, I think Zach Fisher is a good talking point. I am trading him because I need to get Heeney in, and for me it came down to, well, do you want to get rid of Nick Martin or Zach Fisher? I'm still a believer in Nick Martin. I'm backing him in for a ton this week. He'll certainly bounce back. He'll hit the 3 figures. He can lock it in. So I want to keep him. I think he'll still be a top 8 defender when he gets dual position. So it had to be Fisher. I'm happy if you keep him. I thought the role looked good. He was taking kickouts. He'll be better for the run. He'll score a lot more 70s and 80s than he will 50s. So he'll be better than that. But by the same token, if it works better for you to get in Heeney or someone like that, then I can part ways with him as well. So that's how I've ended up going. Nick Martin, I touched on him a bit there. We've got to believe. I mean, he had 25 touches and he just didn't use the ball great. 93 AFL Fantasy, 63 SuperCoach. I didn't see the game, but he must have had some really bad clangers. So I'm sticking with him. Zach Williams, I'm sticking with. I know it's not ideal, but he'll be better than that. A bit like Zach Fisher. When Wiedering comes back, it might loosen him up just a smidgen. I think he's going to be better than this. It's his first couple of games in a long time. So, yeah, he wasn't looking great, but he'll find his way. He'll score a lot more 80s than he will 50s, just like Zach Fisher. So, a couple of Zach's giving us a headache. It's not ideal with the buy, but I'm more comfortable with trading out the other 3 guys as opposed to throwing Williams in there. So that's the way I'm approaching it. Who else have we got to talk about? Jai Newcomb, I think it's a hold. I know it was disappointing, but I saw a lot of people, throwing out like Jordan Dawson or different players like Newcomb to get in Heeney. I'm all for getting in Heeney, but not at the expense of a premium. I mean, we've thought about this all pre-season, guys, and we're not going to turf him off 1 week, are we? Rory Laird had a 50 last year in round 1. People were jumping off. He still ends up averaging 116. Players are going to put in a bad one. It stings a bit extra when it's round 1. That pisses us off, but I don't think we need a rage trade someone like Jai Newcomb. If he doesn't deliver this week, then yeah, we've got something to think about, but you got to give a bloke another chance, surely. I also wanted to touch on this Jesse Hogan cash generation idea that a few people were putting forward, and then Harry Mackay, like this real AFL fantasy, like share market vibe. I get where you're coming from because he's gone nuts and it's a great break even, but he's every chance to score 60 this week. Yeah, he might keep it going, but I don't know. I don't like it too much. I mean, I don't really like jumping off to a guy at 420 just to make us money. I mean, there's not that much money to make, is there? Like probably 130 or 40k at best, which is pretty good. But at worst, if a key forward, who have the Giants got this week? Like, I think they've only got North, don't they? Oh no, they've got West Coast. So look, yeah, he might cash in. But I just don't like the philosophy about it. If you want to do it, then do it. I see why you would. I get it, but I don't really like the idea of bringing in Hogan with the plan. Like before you've even brought him in, you're thinking to get rid of him. I mean, I guess we've got 40 trades, so we can treat it a bit more like a, you bring him in low, sell him high, like it's a bit more like the trade market, stock market. I just don't really like that philosophy. I know we've got a lot of trades, but I still don't want to throw them away by bringing a bloke in who's going to spend a fortnight, 2 or 3 weeks in my team. I don't really like that. And particularly as a key forward who he's in the form of his life, so don't get me wrong, he's probably going to turn up again against the Eagles, but anything's possible, and key forwards make me worried. So I'm happy to play around that tactic. I'm not a big fan of it. Billings and Windsor, both good options. I prefer Billings, like I mentioned before. But yeah, I think that's all the main guys. My main messaging for this week is trust your premiums. If you've backed him in, then stay with him. Hayden Young's another one. I'd still back him in. I know there's this talk about he's going down back, but let's give it one more week. I mean, I'd be surprised if he trained all pre-season in the midfield and then one injury, they just throw it all out and put him back down back. I don't think they'll do that. But we'll wait and see. I'm happy to give it one more week because I thought he actually looked okay when he did spend time in the midfield. Wasn't his best ball use. A couple of 50s I think he gave away, maybe one. So yeah, my main advice is trust your premiums. We've gone all pre-season to spend the money on premiums because we believe in them. Give them more than 1 week. If they let us down again, yeah, let's change it before their price changes. And then just make sure you've got all the missing pieces. Make sure you got the players you need, your money makers. If you missed a rookie, get them in. Get in Heeney, Billings or Windsor, maybe both. And just, correct any mistakes that you feel like you've made. Get D'Ambrosio in. I think that'll be one of the most popular trades. So, yeah, that's about all from me. If you got any questions, feel free to chuck a comment in. I'll do my best to get to them, but hopefully I got to plenty of your questions on the live session, which you can re-watch too if you want. It's always uploaded. I'll read out the questions, so you can probably follow along and get a fair few questions answered in 20 minutes of that as well if you want. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the footy. Cheers.